So this is just my attempt at the 2K Clearcoat headlight restoration. These are Hyundai Coupe headlights. I only thought to do the video like as I'm getting into it, but basically I'll throw some pictures up of how they looked originally. So basically I cleaned and degreased them, and I started on 320 grit, wet and dry, used wet with soaked in soapy water. So I'm going from 320 to 600 to 800 to 1000 to 1500, and then I'll be spraying it with the 2K Clear. I've just done 320 on this, and I'm starting on 600 here. I'm basically timing 3 minutes per section. So like this is like one section, 3 minutes, then leave it alone, then focus on the middle, and then the end, and then this bit here because it's kind of curved. But you can kind of feel which bits need doing and which don't. Like this is feeling quite smooth now, whereas that's incredibly rough. You need to periodically dry it and wipe it, just wipe it with a rag to get the little bits of grit off. Because once it dries you can really see which areas need doing and which don't. But this is looking pretty good so far, so I'm just going to crack on, and I'll update once I've done probably 800 grit, because that's when they'll start to get more transparent. So yeah, that's it for now. Also, just to add, I'd fully recommend taking the headlights out of the car, mainly because you run no risk of jacking up the paintwork, and also you can get the light in positions like this where it's much easier to sort of follow the contour of the light, and you won't get as fatigued either, because this is quite a natural position, because it does take a hell of a lot of elbow grease. Also, if your light has quite a lot of original clear coat on it, start with 320 grit. I know a lot of guides online say to start with 600, but that's for heavily oxidized lights where the clear coat is kind of fucked up anyway. On mine, the main issue was along here where the clear coat had failed, but there was still a shitload of original clear coat all along here, and I spent nearly 2.5 hours with 600 grit getting the original clear coat off, and then on the other light I started with 320 and made the same amount of progress in about 15 minutes. So yeah, I learnt the hard way, so you don't have to. But yeah, this is 600 almost done. I just need to do this section here, and then that's feeling pretty smooth. It's almost ready for 800 grit. Also, a sanding bar, like basically just a bit of foam with sandpaper wrapped around it, really helps with these sort of edges here. So you can just kind of go like this. Bit of a ball ache to sand really, because there's just so many angles on these lights, but yeah, getting there. So here's how they look after 1000 grit. I've just degreased them. I had to put them back on the car because I had to go somewhere yesterday. So I just clean them off again, ready for more sanding. So they're just drying out now. So one thing I did find that helps a lot is, say you do 600 grit horizontally, do your next grit, so your 1000 grit vertically, and that's going to help remove any sort of like deep scratches, because if you're always hitting it horizontally, it's going to take a lot longer. And also if you do it vertically, you sort of make sure you just get any imperfections out. Also I found on the finer grits, say like your 1000 and finer, I personally prefer to do it dry rather than wet sanding, because you can really see what it's doing, and because it's such a fine grit, your sandpaper's not going to clog up as much as it would on like a 600 or less. Saying that, you could probably do the whole thing dry. I think it's more just a personal preference, but just bear in mind that if you're doing like 320 grit dry, you're going to clog up the paper pretty quickly with the old clear coat and plastic. It's just going to clog up easier. But yeah, I think I'm going to carry on doing it dry. And yeah, there's not really a whole lot else to say. A good test to know, it's probably like ready to clear coat now after 1000 grit, but I'm going to go to 2000. So I'm going to do 1500 next and then 2000. And you want to make sure your final grit, whatever you finish on, you finish horizontally, because that's going to reduce the risk of runs. Because if you think about it, the paint's obviously going to come down. If it is going to run, it's going to run down this way. And if you have very tiny microscopic horizontal scratches, it's more likely to catch in those grooves and not run. But yeah, in all honesty, I could probably paint it now if I wanted to. And a very good sign of that is to wet it. This is just panel wipe, U-Pole panel wipe. But watch what happens if I do this. See how clear that is? So in all honesty, I could just clear it now, but I want to go to 2000 just because that's what the manufacturer of the paint suggests doing. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I guess I'll update when it's ready to paint. Another good thing about dry sanding and doing the horizontal vertical thing is you can very easily see areas you've missed. So I'm doing a vertical dry sand with 1500, so I should not see any horizontal lines, because this is meant to fine out the 1000 grit I did before. And looking at it, it's looking good, apart from there are some areas, I don't even know if the camera will pick it up, but around here there's some horizontal lines, so I need to do this bit, and here, like around here, I need to do, which I've not even done yet, because I need a smaller bit of sandpaper along here. But we're getting there. At the end of the day, I'm probably being very OCD about it, and it probably makes no real difference because the paint's just going to fill in any imperfections anyway, but I might as well give it the absolute best prep work I can, because from what I understand, painting is like 90% prep, 10% paint quality and technique. So, and in terms of technique, I've basically mostly been doing it just like this. On the harsher grit stuff I was using a sanding block, but now I'm just doing no pressure, just the weight of my hand, because you don't want to create pressure points with your fingers. Just slide it over and let the paper do the work. As you can see, I'm already getting a very fine horizontal cut, just like that. And then for the edges and these angular bits, I just cut a bit off this and do the same kind of thing. Right, so it's finally ready. That's 2000 grit done. Just put masking tape around the rubber seal thing. Propped it up with whatever I could find, just so it's not touching the table. And 40 degrees, ideal. Humidity 30%, a little bit high, but it should be fine. So yeah, I'm going to do one final wipe down with panel wipe. Give that a good like 5 minutes to fully dry off, and then basically you do one light coat, just to give it like a sticky surface to adhere to, and then one sort of medium coat, and then one heavy coat. This is the stuff I'm using, 2K Spray Max. Got the hardener in the bottom, and the button you use to push on the base to activate the hardener. So a bunch of shaking to do first, and then I'm ready to go. I'm not going to film myself spraying it because I don't have a tripod, but there's plenty of videos out there if you want to watch one. I'm not very good at painting, to be honest, so I'll just give it a go and see how it turns out. So all the spraying is done now. It's been about an hour since I did it, and there's the results. There is a fair bit of orange peel. Well, I don't know if it's a fair bit. I don't know if that's to be expected or not, but I have a DA polisher and a bunch of different polishes, so in a couple of weeks I'll just buff that off. But overall, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. There you go. Like the obvious marks you can see, they're actually behind the headlight glass because it had quite a bad condensation problem, which has since been rectified. I don't think, yeah, this one's not quite as bad. Far better than how it was to begin with. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. So I'll give it 24 hours to dry, and then I'll pull the masking tape off, put it back on the car, and then in a couple of weeks polish that orange peel if I can be bothered. One thing I forgot to mention is you should really wear a respirator when you're spraying the 2K clear coat. It's incredibly carcinogenic. I didn't have one, so I sort of made do with two COVID face masks and some safety goggles. But basically what I did was spray it and hold my breath, and then leave. I walked outside, took a few breaths, came back in, did the other light, and then, you know, walked out again and left it alone for 10 minutes. After the first light coat, I left it 5 to 6 minutes. Then after the second medium coat, I left it 10 minutes. And then obviously the final heavier coat, and that was it. So yeah, you should really wear a respirator, but you can also just hold your breath, do you know what I mean? So I'm sure the people who do it by the book wouldn't approve of that, but whatever, it's a one-off, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, there you go, I'd fully recommend doing it.